We're starting to get more in terms of where the investigation is beginning at this point, and we can also run through a bit of a timeline in terms of when this happened, where this happened. We can show our viewers a map also of the area that this happened, coming into land in Washington, D.C., of course, right in the area, Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, with the Potomac River running right through all of it. This mid-air collision as the passenger plane was coming in for a landing and the military helicopter on a training flight. So all this happened around 9 p.m. Eastern last night when a regional jet that left Wichita, Kansas, collided with a military Black Hawk helicopter with 3 people on board on a training mission. And as I said, the plane was on approach to the runway coming in for a landing. And as we've heard from first responders and then confirmed from U.S. President Donald Trump, this terrible tragedy, that everyone on board, both the passenger plane and the military Black Hawk helicopter, are dead. The flight had 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board. The helicopter with 3 people, both crashing into the Potomac River. So as we see video now of the search and recovery operation, initially, of course, in every airplane disaster, there's an immediate, and any disaster for that matter, there's an immediate search and rescue response, hoping that they can get into the water, potentially pull some survivors from a wreckage like this. Unfortunately, working through the night quickly, that initial search and rescue operation soon turned into a recovery operation, as we heard confirmation this morning from emergency officials who held an initial press conference bright and early this morning. And so we're hearing that there are at least 28 bodies so far pulled from the icy water of the Potomac. And the next step, obviously, of course, is trying to get all the bodies from the river, try to recover all of the what's left of the plane, what's left of the helicopter, and that will begin, of course, the bigger part of this, and that is the investigation. Many questions, as we heard Donald Trump wade into as well, in terms of how this could have even happened.
Yeah, if we can bring the map back as well, while we've got you here, Scott, just to give our viewers a sense of, the location here. You see Reagan National, very busy airport, of course. You see the Pentagon, the White House is right there, the Capitol building as well, the helicopter trajectory, as you were showing us as the plane was coming in for a landing. What about those on board? What do we know about, because we know that there are some Olympic skaters.
Yeah, it was coming from Wichita, Kansas, and in Wichita last weekend, there was the U.S. Figure Skating Championship, and from what we understand, that there was also a development camp that was held after that. So that the tournament was held earlier in the week through the weekend, and then a bit of a development camp after that. And we're hearing from the U.S. governing body for figure skating that there was a group of skaters, coaches, and family members on board this flight. Some of the family members, some of the skaters involved in the Boston Skating Club, but we're also hearing that there are 2 of the coaches were former Russian world champions, and they've been identified by the Kremlin as Yevgenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov, decorated athletes themselves, now coaches, world champions in 1994, and 2-time Olympians. And so we're hearing that coaches, athletes, teenage athletes, that were part of the U.S. figure skating community. And we're hearing, despite a community that stretches over many states, of course, all throughout the U.S., figure skating, of course, not just in the U.S., a big deal around the world, and specifically Russia as well. These coaches now working in America, regardless of how big it might be, an incredibly tight-knit community. So many people involved in the U.S. figure skating community, the Russian figure skating community as well, deeply affected by this. And those are just some of the people who've already been identified who were on board this passenger plane, but there were 60 passengers, 4 crew members, originated from Wichita, so very likely people from Wichita, the Kansas area, in and around that city, in that state potentially, but also, a big loss for the figure skating community as part of this devastating crash.
CTV Scott Hurst here in studio, beginning our coverage today on this story. Thank you, Scott.